Commander Ilara Voss stood at the observation deck of the UEF Indomitable, watching as the alien delegation's vessel approached. The year was 2189, and humanity had finally made contact with an advanced spacefaring civilization, the Lemurians. "They're exactly on schedule," remarked Strategic Officer Dario Kostov, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. "Punctuality seems universal." Voss nodded, adjusting her uniform. The Lemuran ambassador Thelix specifically requested information about Earth's military history, said they were fascinated by our unique approach to conflict resolution. Captain Meridian joined them, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. "Command wants us to be diplomatic but cautious. The Lemurians have been exploring the galaxy for millennia without serious military conflict. Their confederation spans hundreds of systems." Peaceful explorers. Kostov scoffed. "How did they survive this long?" "That's what makes them curious about us," Voss replied. "Their evolutionary path never required the development of our particular skill set." The Lemuran ship docked with elegant precision. Unlike the utilitarian angles of human vessels, theirs featured flowing, organic architecture that seemed to pulse with internal light. The delegation emerged, tall, willowy beings with opalescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions. Ambassador Thelix approached with graceful movements. "Commander Voss, we thank you for this opportunity. Our Confederation has reviewed your historical archives with great interest." "I hope you found them educational," Voss replied diplomatically. "Disturbing would be more accurate," Thelix said, color rippling across their skin in patterns that the translation software identified as concerned fascination. "In our 12,000 years of recorded history, we've had 17 armed conflicts. Your species has had over 15,000 wars in just 4 millennia." Kostov's hand instinctively moved closer to his sidearm. "Different challenges require different solutions." "Indeed," Felix responded. "That is precisely why we're here. Your species possesses something unprecedented, a capacity for violence that persists even when peace would be more advantageous." Voss maintained a neutral expression. "We prefer to call it determination." "We have a galactic situation developing," Felix continued. "Beyond your current exploration range exists a species that doesn't negotiate, the Vectars. For millennia they've expanded unchecked because no civilization possesses the instinct for warfare necessary to oppose them." Captain Meridian stepped forward. "And you believe humans do? We've analyzed your conflicts, from your primitive tribal warfare to your nuclear standoffs to your orbital defense systems." Felix's skin pulsed with anxious light. "Most species develop technology that renders war obsolete. Yours developed technology that made it more efficient." Voss exchanged glances with her officers. "Are you suggesting an alliance?" "We're suggesting a necessity," Felix replied. "The Vectars approach your sector. The Confederation needs what only humans seem to possess, the ability to conceptualize and execute warfare when diplomacy fails." "And what would we gain from this arrangement?" Kostov asked sharply. "Access to technologies your species can't yet imagine," Felix replied. "And survival. The Vectars don't assimilate or negotiate. They consume." Voss looked out at the stars, contemplating humanity's first interstellar alliance. "We'll need to consult with Earth Command." "Of course," Felix said, skin shifting to a deep blue. "But understand, we don't admire your capacity for violence. We fear it. Yet now we need it." 3 months after first contact, Commander Voss stood before the United Earth Federation Council. The chamber buzzed with tension as holographic displays showed the approaching Vectar Armada, massive biomechanical ships that resembled predatory creatures, moving through space with unnatural grace. "The Lemuran data confirms it," Voss stated. "The Vectars have changed course and are headed directly for the Sol system. Estimated arrival, 18 months. Admiral Halston, a veteran of the Mars conflict, leaned forward. "And the Lemurians expect us, a species that barely mastered interplanetary travel, to defend against a threat they've feared for millennia." "Not just us," Voss clarified. "They're proposing an unprecedented knowledge exchange." Their technology for our strategic expertise. Council Chairperson Rao adjusted her neural interface. It's surreal. After centuries of depicting aliens as invaders, we're being recruited as the galaxy's defenders. Mercenaries is more accurate, countered Representative Talbot. They want us to fight their war. Dario Kostov, now promoted to Combat Intelligence Director, activated a simulation. The Vector combat pattern is unlike anything we've seen. They don't fight for territory or resources. They consume everything in their path. The hologram showed planets being systematically stripped, their materials absorbed into the Vector fleet, which grew with each conquest. The Lemurians and their Confederation allies evolved along peaceful paths, Voss continued. Their technology advanced without the crucible of warfare that shaped human innovation. They build, they explore, but they never developed the psychology of combat. And we did, Halston said grimly. Yes, Voss confirmed. Ambassador Thelix explained that while they understand violence conceptually, they lack what they call the creative persistence of conflict, the human ability to continue fighting long after logic would dictate surrender. The council chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. Lieutenant Commander Orion Thake, a tactical prodigy with neural enhancements, stepped forward. I've analyzed the Lumaran tactical database. The Vectors have never encountered resistance that adapted to their strategies. They've never faced an enemy that evolved mid-conflict. Because the Confederation species seek harmony, Voss added. When faced with superior force, they retreat to preserve life. The concept of sacrifice for victory is foreign to them. But not to us, Chairperson Rao said softly. Humanity's entire military history is written in such sacrifices. Admiral Halston stood. We need to be clear about what we're agreeing to. The Lemurians are asking us to become the Confederation's military arm. Their soldiers, their strategists, their warriors. Not just soldiers, Kostov corrected. Teachers. They want to learn our way of thinking. Voss nodded. Ambassador Thelix has requested permission to establish a joint tactical academy. They believe that with their technology and our strategic thinking, we can develop defenses against the Vectors. And if we decline, asked Representative Talbot. The Vectors will reach Earth regardless, Voss replied. We face them alone, without Confederation technology or support. Admiral Halston studied the Vector fleet projections. Then we have no choice. Prepare the integration protocols. If humanity is to survive, we must teach aliens how to wage war. As the council adjourned, Voss received a message from Thelix. We fear what you may awaken in us, Commander. But we fear extinction more. The Lumaran Tactical Integration Facility, nicknamed Warforge by the human personnel, orbited Jupiter's moon Europa. Its architecture blended Lumaran organic design with human military functionality, creating a structure that seemed both beautiful and menacing. Inside the central simulation chamber, Orion Thake faced off against Kelrathi, a crystalline being from the outer Confederation systems. They were engaged in a tactical simulation of ancient human warfare, the Battle of Thermopylae. You've placed your forces in a position with no retreat, Kelrathi observed, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns of confusion. This guarantees casualties. Sometimes you accept casualties to achieve a greater objective, Thake explained. The terrain negates their numerical advantage. Commander Voss observed from the control room alongside Ambassador Thelix. After 6 months of integration, progress remained frustratingly slow. They understand the mechanics, Voss noted, but not the mindset. Felix's skin pulsed with troubled colors. We evolved as communal species where survival depended on cooperation. The concept of sacrificing individuals for tactical advantage is difficult. Without it, you can't defeat the Vectors, Voss replied. War isn't just about technology or numbers. It's about will. That's what fascinates us, Felix admitted. Your historical records show repeatedly that technologically superior forces have been defeated by those with stronger determination. The conversation paused as an alert sounded. Director Kostov entered with grave news. The long-range scouts have returned. The Vector advance force has accelerated. They'll reach the Proxima Centauri colony in 3 months, not 6. Voss's expression hardened. Then we're out of time for simulations. We need real combat experience. 2 weeks later, a joint Human Confederation battle group assembled near Proxima Centauri. The human vessels looked primitive compared to their allies, but carried weapon systems integrated with Confederation technology. Captain Meridian, commanding the UEF Indomitable, addressed the mixed crew. This engagement will determine whether our tactical integration succeeds. The Vectors have never encountered resistance that combines human strategy with Confederation technology. In the tactical center, Voss worked with Lumaran officers who watched her with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The Vectors will expect us to protect our orbital infrastructure, she explained. Instead, we'll abandon it, make it appear we're retreating. Sacrificing valuable resources? Asked Kelrathi, now serving as a tactical officer. Sacrificing hardware to preserve our combat capability, Voss corrected. When they move to consume the stations, we strike from multiple vectors. As the Vector scouts entered the system, the trap was set. Human officers noticed their Confederation counterparts struggling with the concept of deliberate deception in warfare, but following orders nonetheless. The Vector vessels, living ships that seemed to blend machine and organism, approached the seemingly abandoned colony with predatory confidence. They had never needed subterfuge or complex tactics. Their technological superiority had always been sufficient. When the ambush was sprung, the battle illuminated the space around Proxima Centauri with energies never before combined. Human tactical systems guided Confederation weapons with unexpected precision. For the first time in their long history of expansion, the Vectors were forced to retreat. In the aftermath, Felix approached Commander Voss on the observation deck. "Your strategy succeeded," they said, skin flickering with complex emotions. "But I felt something during battle, something alien to my nature. A desire to destroy rather than merely defend." Voss nodded grimly. "That's what we were afraid of. Teaching you warfare doesn't just give you tactical knowledge. It changes how you think." "Perhaps," Felix replied. "That is why the galaxy evolved with humans isolated until now. You were kept apart until your particular talents became necessary." 1 year into the conflict, the war had transformed both sides. The UEF Indomitable, now upgraded with Confederation technology, barely resembled its original design. Captain Meridian's cybernetic implants had expanded, allowing him direct neural interface with the ship systems, a human adaptation of Lumaran biotechnology. On the bridge, Commander Voss reviewed tactical data with Kelrathi, who had become an exceptional student of human warfare. The crystalline being now displayed patterns that human neural translators identified as strategic aggression, something unheard of in their species before. "The Vectors are adapting," Kelrathi observed. "Their latest formations show they're learning from defeat." "That's the problem with intelligent enemies," Voss replied. "They evolve." Director Kostov joined them, his expression grim. "We've decoded their communication patterns. The Vector Collective is consolidating forces. They're abandoning expansion in other sectors to focus entirely on us." "Because we hurt them," Meridian said. "We're the first real threat they've encountered." Strategic analysis showed the Vectors had withdrawn from 17 systems to reinforce their main fleet. The Confederation Council, once hesitant about warfare, had now fully committed to the human military paradigm. Across 50 systems, peaceful species were manufacturing weapons designed by human engineers. In the tactical laboratory aboard the Warforged station, Lieutenant Commander Thake worked with diverse Confederation specialists. "The Vectors operate as a hive consciousness, but with distributed processing," he explained. "They've never needed to compartmentalize information because they've never faced an enemy that could exploit their communication. So we introduce information warfare," suggested Malarai, a gaseous entity whose translucent form contained swirling colors. Once a Confederation philosopher, she had become a specialist in psychological operations, a concept her species had never needed before. "Exactly," they confirmed. We don't just attack their ships, we attack their decision-making process. As the strategies evolved, so did the participants. Human officers noticed their Confederation counterparts developing traits previously unique to humanity: strategic deception, tactical aggression, even a certain ruthlessness in prioritizing objectives over safety. Meanwhile, humans incorporated Confederation perspectives that enhanced their effectiveness. From the energy beings of Talos Prime, they learned patience in strategic positioning. From the crystalline Kelrothi, they adopted multidimensional tactical modeling that transcended traditional human spatial thinking. During a rare moment of respite, Voss found Ambassador Thelix in the observation lounge, staring at a holographic display of the latest battle. "We become effective warriors," Thelix said quietly. "Some in the Confederation Council are concerned about what happens after this conflict ends. They're worried you'll turn your new skills against each other," Voss surmised. "Or that humans might, with our technology and your natural inclination for warfare." Voss considered this. Throughout human history, the most dangerous periods came after major conflicts. Victorious powers with advanced weapons and experienced soldiers seeking new purposes. Yet you've survived these periods. Not without cost, Voss admitted. But we've learned that the same determination that makes us effective in war can be redirected to peaceful endeavors. The question is whether the Confederation species can do the same. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency alert. The main Vector fleet had arrived at Alpha Centauri, much earlier than predicted. The final confrontation was beginning. As battle stations sounded throughout the combined fleet, Voss observed something remarkable. Human and Confederation officers moved with synchronized purpose. What had begun as an awkward alliance had evolved into an integrated force. Captain Meridian's voice came over the comms. "All vessels, execute Operation Thunderbolt." The largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. The Alpha Centauri system blazed with weapons fire as the combined Human Confederation fleet engaged the Vector Armada. Space itself seemed to warp around the confrontation, distorted by exotic energies and gravitational weapons. Aboard the UEF Indomitable, now serving as the fleet flagship, Commander Voss coordinated the defensive line, while Captain Meridian managed ship operations through his neural interface. "Sector 4 is collapsing," reported Kelrothi from the tactical station. "The Vectors have developed countermeasures to our phase shift torpedoes." Voss analyzed the tactical display. "They're learning faster than expected. Reconfigure attack pattern Delta. We need to keep them off balance." The battle had raged for 72 hours without pause. Human officers rotated shifts, while their Confederation counterparts, many capable of extended consciousness without rest, maintained their posts. This biological advantage was offset by their still-developing grasp of combat psychology. "Incoming transmission from the Vector command vessel," announced Lieutenant Commander Thake. The main screen activated, revealing a being unlike any they'd encountered before. The Vector leader appeared as a shifting mass of biomechanical components, constantly reconfiguring itself. Its voice came through as a discordant harmony of multiple tones. "You have proven more resilient than anticipated," the Vector communicated. "We offer terms for your surrender." Captain Meridian exchanged looks with Commander Voss before responding. "We're listening." "Your human contingent will be preserved as a client species," the Vector continued. "Your consciousness will be integrated into our collective. The Confederation worlds will be harvested as originally intended." "That's not surrender," Voss interjected. "That's selective consumption." "It is efficiency," the Vector corrected. "Your species has demonstrated valuable adaptability. The others have not." The offer revealed something crucial. The Vectors were attempting to divide the alliance. They hadn't fully grasped the transformation that had occurred over months of integration. Voss signaled for the transmission to be muted temporarily. "They're offering human survival at the expense of our allies." Ambassador Thelix, who had insisted on remaining aboard despite the danger, stepped forward. "A logical proposal from their perspective. You are the warriors they respect." "It's a trap," Meridian stated flatly. Once the Confederation falls, we'd be next. Agreed, said Voss. But their willingness to negotiate indicates something we haven't seen before: uncertainty in their victory. When the communication resumed, Voss addressed the Vectar directly. Your terms are rejected. We stand with the Confederation. The Vectar's form pulsed with what might have been anger. Then you will be consumed together. We have studied your tactics. We have adapted. As the transmission ended, the Vectar fleet surged forward with renewed coordination. Their formations displayed an understanding of human battle doctrine. They were using humanity's own strategies against them. They've assimilated our tactical database, Kalrathi reported, crystalline structure flashing with alarm patterns. Our standard approaches are compromised. In that critical moment, Commander Voss made a decision that would change the course of the conflict. Then we abandoned doctrine entirely. All ships implement Chaos Protocol. Chaos Protocol was a conceptual strategy developed jointly by human and Confederation tacticians, a deliberate rejection of optimal tactical positioning in favor of unpredictable, seemingly irrational maneuvers. The Confederation vessels, guided by their human counterparts, broke formation and began operating independently, each following randomized attack patterns. For species that valued harmony and order, this approach was psychologically challenging, but they executed it perfectly. The Vectar Collective, optimized for countering predictable strategies, struggled to adapt to what appeared to be madness. Their hive mind, attempting to identify patterns where none existed, began showing signs of decision paralysis. As the battle progressed, Voss noticed something remarkable on the tactical display. The Confederation ships weren't merely following the chaos strategy. They were improvising, adding their own species-specific variations that even human tacticians hadn't anticipated. They've internalized the mindset, Fake observed with a mixture of pride and concern. They're not just following human battle doctrine, they're creating their own. For 12 more hours, the chaotic battle continued. The Vectar fleet, for the first time in its long history of conquest, found itself facing an enemy it couldn't predict or understand. Their losses mounted as their coordination faltered. Finally, the massive Vectar command vessel attempted to withdraw. Captain Meridian gave the order that would become legendary in later accounts. All ships, don't let them learn from this defeat. The combined fleet converged on the retreating command ship, preventing its escape. When it finally detonated under concentrated fire, the remaining Vectar vessels lost cohesion, their collective consciousness fragmented. Victory had been achieved, but at tremendous cost. Nearly 40% of the combined fleet had been destroyed or crippled. The Alpha Centauri colony lay in ruins. In the aftermath, as damage reports flowed in, Ambassador Thelix found Commander Voss in the tactical center. The Confederation Council is convening an emergency session, they informed her. They wish to discuss what happens now. Now, Voss looked up from casualty reports. Now we rebuild what was destroyed. That's not their primary concern, Thelix replied, skin pulsing with complex emotions. Their concern is what we have created, a confederation that now understands warfare. 6 months after the Battle of Alpha Centauri, the Warforged Station had been transformed into a diplomatic hub. Representatives from across the Confederation gathered in what had once been the tactical simulation chamber, now converted into a grand council hall. Commander Ilara Voss, recently promoted to admiral, stood before the assembled delegates. Behind her, Captain Meridian and Director Kostov represented Earth's military leadership, while Ambassador Thelix spoke for the traditional Confederation perspective. The Vectar threat has been neutralized, Voss began. Their remaining vessels have retreated beyond the galactic rim. Our long-range sensors indicate they've abandoned their expansion directive entirely. Holographic displays showed the former Vectar territory. Dozens of systems now being restored by joint recovery teams. Where the Vectars had stripped worlds bare, combined human Confederation technology was accelerating ecological regeneration. But we face a more complex challenge now, Voss continued. We've changed the fundamental nature of the Confederation. Species that had never conceptualized warfare now understand it intimately. The crystalline representative from Kelrath Prime rose, their form refracting light in patterns that conveyed both concern and determination. We cannot unlearn what we now know. The question is how we direct this knowledge. Murmurs spread through the chamber as delegates debated in dozens of languages. Some advocated for dismantling the military infrastructure created during the conflict. Others insisted on maintaining it as protection against future threats. Captain Meridian stepped forward. Throughout human history, we've struggled with this same question. How do you preserve peace when you possess the capacity for devastating warfare? You've proven surprisingly ineffective at it, noted a gas cloud entity from the Malarai Collective, their translator conveying dry humor. Your history suggests permanent peace eludes you. True, Meridian acknowledged. But we've learned something crucial. The same determination that makes humans persistent in war can be channeled toward other endeavors. Admiral Voss activated a new holographic display showing the prototype of an exploration vessel, larger and more advanced than anything previously constructed. The UCS Horizon, the first ship of a new joint fleet dedicated not to warfare, but to exploration beyond our known regions. Ambassador Thelix moved to stand beside Voss. This represents our proposal. The Confederation has witnessed humanity's capacity for warfare, but that's only one aspect of human persistence. You apply the same relentless determination to discovery, to creation, to overcoming challenges that others would abandon. Director Kostov, his weathered face solemn, addressed the concerns directly. You fear that teaching you warfare has created a militarized confederation that may turn these skills inward. That fear is valid. Humans have done exactly that throughout our history. Yet you survived it, observed the Kelrathi representative. Because we learned that maintaining peace requires as much determination as waging war, Voss explained. It requires creating systems, institutions, and balances that channel our aggressive tendencies toward productive ends. The debate continued for days. Gradually, a new consensus emerged, neither a return to the Confederation's previous pacifism nor an embrace of human militarism, but something uniquely synthesized from both perspectives. The outcome was the Centauri Accord, establishing a joint Confederation human exploration initiative alongside a defensive alliance. The military technologies developed during the conflict would be maintained, but governed by a council representing all species. As the delegates departed, Voss found herself on the observation deck with Thelix, watching ships prepare for departure. "Your people are remarkable," Thelix said. "When we first encountered humans, we saw only your capacity for violence, a frightening trait we needed to harness against the Vectars. And now," Voss asked, "now we understand that your persistence in conflict is merely one expression of something deeper, an unwillingness to accept defeat in any form." Felix's skin rippled with colors that the translation software interpreted as profound realization. "That's both our greatest strength and our greatest flaw," Voss admitted. "We don't know when to stop pushing." "Perhaps that's why the galaxy needed humans," Thelix suggested. The Confederation had reached equilibrium, peaceful, expansive, but ultimately vulnerable to a threat like the Vectars. "You introduced disequilibrium. Creative chaos," Voss said with a slight smile. "Exactly. You've shown us that peace isn't merely the absence of conflict, but something that must be actively maintained through vigilance and determination." As they spoke, the UCS Horizon moved into position for its maiden voyage. The massive vessel represented something unprecedented, a perfect integration of human drive and Confederation technology, designed to push beyond the boundaries of known space. Lieutenant Commander Thake, now captain of the Horizon, transmitted a final message before departure. "We go to discover what lies beyond, carrying the lessons of both our peoples." Voss watched the ship activate its advanced drive system, technology that had been theoretical before the war necessitated its development. The Horizon vanished in a burst of light, heading toward unexplored regions. "They feared us when they found us," Voss reflected. "They needed our capacity for warfare, our refusal to surrender. And now we need your refusal to stop exploring, to stop questioning, to stop reaching beyond current limitations, Felix replied. The Vectars taught us that the galaxy holds dangers we never imagined. But you've taught us something more important, how to face those dangers without losing ourselves. As new ships departed the station, some bound for reconstruction efforts, others for exploration missions, Admiral Voss contemplated humanity's unexpected role in galactic society. They had been recruited as warriors, but would continue as pioneers. The Confederation had learned that sometimes peace required the capacity for war. Humanity had learned that their relentless drive could build rather than destroy. Together, they had created something neither could have achieved alone, a resilient interstellar community prepared for whatever lay beyond the next horizon. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would its inhabitants.